Welcome back to more Halo on Paramount Plus recaps, reviews, whatever you want to call it. Okay, look, the only way to get any traction on YouTube is apparently you gotta be full cringe teenager. So, what's up? It's your boy, Legendary Badass, aka Von Fry Von Jog Vlog. You know what to call me. Go ahead and hit that like, share, subscribe if you want more content. Okay, let's get into it.
Von Jog Vlog.
Before we get into it, I'd like to tell you about the Mag Wallet from Andar, makers of fine leather goods and accessories that go with your iPhone. This MagSafe wallet snaps on the back of iPhone 13s as well as MagSafe cases, be it their own or Apple's. Not only is the Mag Wallet better than Apple's because it has this cutout for you to push cards from the front without detaching the wallet. Andar's wallet is also cheaper than Apple's. If you use my promo code FRY20, you can save 20% at checkout. In episode 6, Solace, you have to expect a slow episode following episode 5's action-packed conclusion. John debriefs and comes face-to-face with Maki. I swear at one point Miranda Keyes calls her Mickey. John then interrogates Dr. Halsey. Halsey comes clean on the Spartan program, kidnapping and replacing kids with weak clones who eventually die. Miranda learns of her parents' involvement in the Spartan program, which one would figure she already had known. Dr. Halsey is the scapegoat, taken to an off-site lab. Chief tells Kai the truth. Kai struggles to hold it back from the rest of the team. Freckles fails to hide her British accent for a second.
Kai, toss me that grenade, would you?
Dr. Halsey's manipulative ways take center stage in real time, faking to bond with Miranda so as to use a high-tech gadget to bypass security lockout. Chief's rogue ways continue, and just as it looks like we're finally gonna have an episode without Kwan, she appears in a vision as if contractually obligated. Chief touches the keystone again, this time sending Maki and himself into a shared dream state, finally showing us a Halo ring. Episode 7, Inheritance, begins with a meaningless flashback to 2 years ago when Kwan had a sensible haircut. That dust storm is going to be fun to drive through in an open-air vehicle without goggles. Kwan encounters the Mystics, sand Amazons who can't possibly have an ancient religion on a foreign rock that humans are relatively new to. That's like finding a cult on the International Space Station.
Madrigal was once very different. Barren and unforgiving.
Lady, you're telling me the presently barren and unforgiving desert planet was once barren and unforgiving? Kwan imbibes hallucinogenic firewater, taking her on a trip to fight Master Chief so that the protagonist of the game this show is based on can actually appear in this episode. Thankfully, she loses each fight, respawning until her deceased father appears to tell her there's a portal on Madrigal that can only reveal its secrets when the planet is safe, so it's up to her to protect it. WTF. Soren, spared by Kwan, must had simply left Madrigal without her. It's cheaper to tell it in story than to show it. And though he picks up where he left off as a space pirate, upon hearing that Kwan's bounty has tripled, his concern for her is reignited. Back on Madrigal, Kwan travels to the site where her father was killed. Remember the opening battle? Soren finds her, and in weighing her options, Kwan decides to come with, but oh no, Venture has the place surrounded. You know, it's interesting that our dictator, evocative of all things fascist, he's actually widely called by his first name and actually quotes Barack Obama here.
Time to put away childish things.
During the raid, Venture quips at an elite carcass, making it apparent he's never seen one before, and contradicting so much that we've been told about the UNSC having been at war with the Covenant for some time. Kwan spots a plasma grenade and tags a goon, probably the most Halo thing this episode has to offer. Venture shoots Soren in the neck. Cornered, Kwan comes to the rescue, shooting the sky pipe and setting off an explosion that kills Venture and his men. Evidently, Soren can just shrug off severe wounds because Kwan and Soren say goodbye as he departs back to his rock with some coins Kwan had stashed. In a vacuum, episode 7, Inheritance, isn't too bad, but as an episode of a show based on the Halo games, it continues the tradition of Kwan's storyline being entirely unrelated to the events this series should be focusing on. We can only hope that with Venture out of the picture, Kwan lays low for the rest of the season, but this is unlikely. I really do think the actress Kwan Ha is doing a good job, but that the character doesn't fit the Halo story in even the loosest manner. Now I'm going to tell you a crafty storytelling approach you won't get from any other YouTube channel. As much as you want to see less Kwan, casting her aside now would make the time invested in her story a complete waste. The only path for redemption is to get more Kwan and tie her into the Halo story proper, so that the audience doesn't feel cheated. Granted, you're already feeling cheated that this character is taking prominence over Master Chief, but we have to try to make the most out of this situation. Episode 8, Allegiance. Good to know the USC are now giving Spartans towels. McKee finally figured out how to pronounce her name in this episode. I kind of retroactively tried to say it right in the other ones in this video. News is coming in that the Covenant have glassed a colony, which I don't recall being a term used in the games. Thanks to a stroll in the park with McKee, John trusts her to lead the UNSC to the Covenant and take the fight to them. Chief gets permission to allow McKee to use the UNSC artifact to locate the Covenant. Seeing Chief in civilian garb will never not be weird, but even weirder, hooking up with McKee while Cortana watches. Post-coitus, McKee sees an opening to energy fingernail John, but has second thoughts, even going a step further to remove the weapon. It's really looking like McKee has changed her tune. Dr. Halsey is being ordered off Reach altogether, but strikes back with a plan to steal the Keystone, John and McKee. She orders the rest of Silver Team to carry out her plan. Kai isn't down with this and gets subdued by Riz and Vanek. As John and McKee are en route to test the artifact, Cortana turns against Dr. Halsey, alerting John of the trap. He sends McKee to hide and tries to fight off Riz and Vanek. Kai breaks free, the episode's coolest moment, and comes to Chief's aid. Miranda Keyes IDs I'm really not sure, as the culprit behind the deaths aboard the Gladius, and in having her detained/beaten, seems McKee has 180'd again, activating the artifact in defiance. With everyone concussed from the wave, Chief briefly returns to the Halo realm, where McKee says goodbye. Did this energy pulse alert the Covenant to reach his location? Probably. I've long figured the season would conclude with the fall of Reach, Silver Team sacrificing themselves heroically so Chief can escape on the Pillar of Autumn with Cortana, and they can come to a Halo ring. At the pace we're going, this is too much ground to cover in one episode, and new plot elements are likely going to remove the Halo series further from the game's story. As stands, we're humanizing John to the point he may as well be another character altogether. The portal to Madrigal can only possibly lead to Halo, which in this series may be the Halo, as in the only Halo ring, and only reachable through the portal as though it's a realm. This would make a Season 2 that plays out like the original game with Chief aboard the Pillar of Autumn fighting Covenant forces and crash landing on the Halo ring entirely impossible. I don't know what the season finale has in store for us next week, but I have thus far had a mostly unpleasant experience. Perhaps it is time that we pass legislations that adaptations honor the source material rather than having new creatives putting their own spin on it. But what say you? Let me know in the comments below.
You just watched a video from my son. He's about 40 and lives in my basement, ladies. So subscribe her and notify the bell for ringing.
Okay, I said what you wanted me to say. Now do the goddamn dishes.